if you look at high-level people attacking from top pins, specifically in no-gi, when there's no jackets to work with, what you see is generally an opportunistic approach, where when the top guy is either side control, north, south, or mount, he's generally up on points, which means the onus is on the bottom person to try to escape so he can recover those points and win the match. So the top guy generally uses the opportunity of the overextension of the bottom player to make either positional gains or get to submissions, okay? Where they rely on the fact that the bottom player has to really overextend himself to try to escape, and they use that opportunity, they rely on that opportunity to make their gains, okay? But if you contrast this with submission-only tournaments, like EBI specifically, for example, where passing the guard means nothing, and if you don't submit the guy, you go to overtime, what you see is the bottom person has a different set of goals. Instead of trying to escape and regain those points or get to a submission and find a way to win the match, they may be thinking, okay, well, if I don't get submitted, I'm going to go to overtime. So their goals are different. Instead of spending the energy and overextending and getting their back taken or getting submitted, then they're just going to shell up, they're going to bring their elbows in, and now their goal is not to escape, but just not to get submitted, okay? So rather than using an opportunistic approach to attack our opponent, we're going to use a very deliberate and systematic approach, okay? And the goal is to deliberately, systematically, and incrementally peel your partner's limbs away from their body when you're under the assumption that their only goal is to not get submitted, okay? Rather than just try to escape to recoup the points or win the match. Okay, so we're going to be using a very deliberate approach versus an opportunistic approach, that's what you see most of the time, is where the people use the opportunity of escape to make their either positional gains, advances, or moving into submission holds.
Man, that's awesome. So you want to demonstrate, like?
Yeah. So one of the things that everyone's interested in is my mounted attacks. While everyone is loving the top pin, side control, north-south, typically what you see me do when I compete is I pass right to mount. I don't waste time moving to side control. I usually pass right to mount and attack from there and either hit kakatames or arm bars or take the back, things like that. That's what people know me for, okay? One interesting thing that I do for mount, which is so simple, and once it's explained to you, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for however long and I haven't thought of it. But if you never thought about it yourself, you would never think to even try this. When most people go to isolate their partner's limbs from a top mount without the gi, they try to use straight wrist grips, where from here, I push Bernardo's hand down to the floor and you feel like you're pushing into a wall. That's because I'm pushing against the large muscle groups in Bernardo's chest and his back, okay? If I use a cross grip method instead, where I take my palm pointing up towards the ceiling, and I take a cross grip here, now when I go to push Bernardo's hands out to the side, I'm fighting against his rotator cuff, which is incredibly weak compared to the large muscle groups in his chest and his back. So now, when Bernardo goes to keep his hand into his chest, it's a pretty easy thing for me to just lean my weight over and start to pin his hands down to the floor. And the beauty of this is that I can go in either direction. So I can use double cross, like so. So if I go to one side, and Bernardo tries to bridge to bring his hand back, he bridge to the other side. He overcommits, and now I can pin his hand to the floor, okay? Because in order for Bernardo to bring this hand back to center, he has to bridge in the opposite direction, and now he overcommits to one side. And you find it so tiring from bottom position to just keep pulling your hands back into place. And once I do get a hand pinned, now it's a pretty easy thing to start your series of dilemmas, where from here I can come through and start to control my partner's hand. Now your partner has two choices. Number one, if he doesn't do anything, he always will surrender an underhook, and now he can elevate his arm over his head. If, on the other hand, he tries to strip my grips and bring his hand across and tries to deal with taking my hands off, now he brings the elbow across the center line, and he creates the dilemma of the underhook coming up or the elbow coming across, where now I have back exposure. So I play a dilemma game with pinning and passing, where I pin a hand down to the floor, and if there's no reaction, I elevate it over the head. If he goes to address those grips before I can look to elevate it, he passes the elbow across the center line, now I can strip it, and now I can go into all of my favorite backhanded arm, seated headed arm, and back attacks from here. Okay, there's just a little snippet there, something that's so simple, but you would never really think about it unless it was explained to you. Whenever you're looking to isolate limbs from a top mount, always use a cross wrist series rather than a straight wrist series, because of the fact that you're fighting against your partner's rotator cuff rather than your partner's chest and large muscles throughout the back and the lat.
Oh, God, man, that's amazing. And I have never seen anybody doing that. And as you said, it's like super, super simple. How did you figure that out?
I was training at Henzo's. I was a brown belt, actually. And I went up to John. I'm like, John, I mount people and I feel just helpless. Like, if anything, I just mount people and they just kip out and heel hook me every time. So I feel like I mount people and I'm the guy who's on the defensive most of the time. I'm like, how do I isolate limbs? And he goes, just use a cross grip method and it's much easier. And then he explained to me what I just explained to you guys, and I was like, oh my God, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 4.5 years, and I never thought of that.
No, man, that's crazy. And as you just said, even like no gi, for example, I'm always concerned about mount because the heel hooks and this and that, and that's probably like the place you're tapping the most opponents nowadays. Like you always get the mount, and you either get armbar or you get the
or
you go to the back. So
and it's so much different because most of the time when you're working with a jacket, you just threaten to strangle. The hands come up to defend the strangle, and then you can elevate the hands over the head. But without the gi, you can't threaten any collar strangles. So the guy's hands can just stay here reliably, and they don't have to fight the collars or do any of that. They can just stay here. So you have to have a reliable way to separate the guy's hands from his body and start to isolate them.
Well, Gordon, just one more question. Every time I see you competing, everybody who gets the mount on someone, the person on board is always able to move the person on top, isn't it? And when you were on top, reminds me even like Roger Gracie Fiki, the person on board can't move. So is that because of this type of grip that you do, or you do something else as well over here?
In general, what most guys try to do to escape is they get you bridging forward, and then they start with some kind of push on your hips or your chest. The thing that I do is my default grips are here. So whenever Bernardo goes to make grips on my chest or on my hips, and he goes to give a strong bridge to either side, that just facilitates my ability to pin a hand down to the floor.
So all comes from this.
Yeah, because if I'm here, even if you just have a strong guy who bridges, then he pushes on my chest, he can make a strong off balance and immediately go into his escapes.
Man, that's amazing.
But the second Bernardo goes to move, even if he goes to do a knee elbow escape, the second his shoulder comes down, I pin a hand. Amazing. And now from here, I come through and I start to look to isolate his arm.
Man, that's incredible. No, that's incredible.